In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, I am bold to bring you this word today. Amen. I don't think any of us would argue that it's good to have light in the darkness. And I stand before you to tell you that it's good to be reminded of the Advent promises here near the middle of June. Because this text from Isaiah is not just a let's get ready for Christmas text. When we hear Isaiah in late November or early December, we're eager to talk about the light that will come, for theological reasons and for meteorological reasons. We want to talk about the light of Christ, to reveal God's goodness, to chase away the dark and gloom from our days in late autumn, early winter, and from our lives. We long for the endless peace of this promised kingdom. We look forward to the zeal of the Lord of hosts. And what will that zeal bring but deliverance? Deliverance is the message of the Christmas and Easter stories. And deliverance is a God thing. God will do this. God is with you. God is not defeated by the tomb. Deliverance, redemption, renewal, salvation. We long for these things when we're at our theological best. But we also recognize that our agency in these things is limited. God is the one who makes all this happen. God is the driving force behind the redemption of creation. And at Christmas time and at Easter time, we're happy to sing those praises and to make those statements that says, yes, God, do this. Now is the time. But if we're being honest, here in the middle of June, if we're being honest, we're still waiting for that joy to be multiplied. We're still waiting for the warrior's clothes to be burned as fuel for the fire. We're still waiting for the grip of grief and sin to be broken. We're still waiting. At Christmas it seems so close. It seems so real, so tangible. The gentle, familiar hymns, the families gathered in from a distance, gifts exchanged, food enjoyed. And at Christmas, we seem like better people. We are nicer to one another out of habit, out of generosity, out of the season's best. There is something about the season of Christmas and the time that leads up to it that is gloriously contagious. And people smile more and hold doors for you and things like that. And when we're at our theological best, we can imagine that it's the zeal of the Lord of hosts that's spreading that Christmas joy. Yes, we can be good Christians at Christmas and Easter. But it's not Christmas for long, is it? And while we try to keep the faith, by the time summer comes, the promises of Christmas and Easter seem a distant memory. It's not that we have no faith. And it's not that we're not doing our best to follow the trail that Jesus blazed, but the stories of God with us, the stories of Christ risen, these stories that carry the promises at their most vibrant, are a little ways in the rearview mirror. The days when we sang, "Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace," or "Hail the day that sees him rise," those days are joyful and full of excitement and expectation, and we are hopeful, and we are wonderful, and we are ready for God to do something. But that energy is hard to sustain for the other 10 months of what the church calls ordinary time. It seems so ordinary. And here we are at the beginning of it. And so Isaiah today throws us a life preserver. He offers us a refresher, a chance to be reminded that this is not just a pre-Christmas text, that these are not seasonal promises that we cling to. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall not be bound by our calendar. The burdens that Isaiah speaks of may well have been historically specific. Every text has its context, and we understand that there were problems then that Isaiah needed to speak to. But we also accept that these holy words have meaning beyond their time, meaning for us. And we know that even now, even among us, there are burdens waiting to be lifted. Even now, even beyond us, there is anxiety and fear over the state of things. In Ukraine, in the tensions between China and the U.S. and everyone. In the continuous wars of attrition and absorption in and among countries too isolated or too politically insignificant to make the headlines. Trouble abounds, burdens weigh us down. There is conflict everywhere we look these days. So much conflict that too many of us have stopped looking. It is easier and safer to hide our eyes and keep our heads down and pray for it to be over or better or different. And for some, that is the most faithful way to approach these times of trouble. And frankly, if that's your approach, please don't stop praying. If for your own well-being you need to keep your head down and pray, then please keep your head down and pray. Those prayers are always welcome. But Isaiah, his bold words would make a different claim on us. Yes, they can remind us that human conflict is a constant thing. Thousands of years ago, things weren't much different, and so on. Yes, these words can stand as an example that where humans are concerned, some things never change. But Isaiah refers us to God's promised deliverance in the present tense. The activity of God, mercy and deliverance, justice and peace are playing out in real time. A child has been born for us. a son given to us. These verbs suggest an action that is underway and continuous, a fait accompli. There is motion and energy in these promises from so long ago, motion and energy derived from an eternal and unstoppable force. From this time onward, says Isaiah, and forevermore, an unstoppable force, the zeal of the Lord of hosts. So, yes, keeping your head down and engaging in fervent prayers for peace is an option. Please don't stop praying. But I think the prophet has called us to lift up our heads, to look and see. For light is shining, and the darkness is being overcome. The child has been given and indeed has conquered the darkness of death for us. It is true that there is much to endure. But for us, for the people of God, for the followers of Jesus, there is nothing left to fear. Because God's promise is unfolding. In the midst of what we call chaos, God works to reveal order. From the depth of all dark times, God's healing light still dawns. Christ's life, death, and resurrection are significant markers in this ongoing project of redemption and relief, all of which is part of God's ancient promise. So lift up your heads. Look toward the light. There is good in the world. And where you see that good, God is at work. The promise has not been abandoned. The prophet speaks to us today. And though the project may seem too big for us to consider or too far away to remember, I say to you, never fear. For the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this, can do this, is doing this, even now. Amen. All glory, honor, might, and majesty in this and in all things be given to God and God alone, now and always. Amen.